Well, one of the best rifles of all time is being discontinued. And today I'm going to tell you why that may not necessarily be a bad thing. Now, if you've ever looked at owning a SCAR, or you do own a SCAR, or you'd like to own a SCAR, this video is for you. We're going to look at all the possibilities of what FN could do down the road, because now they're calling this the legacy model, which tells me a couple of different things and a couple of different possibilities, both of which I think are very interesting for you and me on the civilian side. We also have to look at how FN has treated some of their legacy lines in the past, though, too, to tell us where this might be heading. So definitely want to hear your opinion on the SCAR line being discontinued. Is this something you care about, or are you looking for something new? Maybe even a new SCAR? Let me know your opinion down below. Let's go ahead and jump right in. Now, the SCAR's been around since like 2003. At least that's like the early development stages. 2009 is when they made their first deliveries, I believe, to SOCOM, and then 2009, 2010 is when they hit the civilian market. They've been around a really long time, and since then, I mean, they've created quite a bit of controversy. It's probably one of the most controversial rifles out there, mainly because of the price. But there's also some things that I think they would change with this platform if that's the direction they go. But let's first look at what's confirmed. So FN said, hey, legacy guns, 16S, 17S, 20S, they're being discontinued. What they have made right now, that is it. The 15P will continue. But they also said there's going to be more information at SHOT Show 2026. So the very first thing I thought is, okay, well, they're making a new SCAR lineup. Why would they call this one the legacy and not have a new production to fill it? And look, there's been a number of different issues that some people have experienced, from bulk carrier group failures, cam pins failing on them, catastrophic failures sometimes, the famous SCAR bounce, right? These guns used to be really violent in their nature because they had reciprocating charging handles, and they would eat up optics if you didn't put really good optic mounts on them specifically. It could be a nightmare with some of these guns, right? I'm sure there's some guys out there that have spent more money in the optics or replacing those optics than the actual gun itself. Overgassing, short stroking has been an issue. Suppressor usage has been a point of contention. Some people have had to send their guns back to FN and had their warranty claims denied because they put an aftermarket muzzle device and a suppressor on it. Now, FN is like really vague with how they have their language, right? They want to cover themselves in case the user does something stupid on their end. I get that, but they make suppressors, right? It's kind of a notorious thing with the SCAR that they can absolutely void your warranty if you run these guns suppressed. I've never had an issue with my 17S anyways, running it suppressed over the past, I guess, 2 years now. But that's not to say that you won't have issues. So there's some things here that you wouldn't necessarily expect with a $3,500 or $4,000 rifle, sometimes more, depending upon the time when you actually bought these things. If they decide to go with a new SCAR series, which is one of the possibilities, I think this is really interesting. I think, first of all, slimming the entire profile of the gun down is going to be necessary, right? We have old school rails. Replacing that with M-LOK is going to be crucial, and it's going to save a lot more space in the handguard area. Having a dedicated suppressor setting, maybe a bigger gas port, more robust gas system, something to keep up with modern shooters, right? A lot of shooters, and especially coming into January this next year with no tax stamp, you're going to have a lot more people owning suppressors, I believe, into the next year. So modernizing the platform to be suppressor friendly across the board is definitely going to be significant. One of the biggest issues I've had with the SCAR, this is the 20S by the way, is the controls feel cheap, right? So when I reviewed the Honey Badger, everything feels premium. On these guns, not so much. Now, there are plenty of aftermarket things that you can do with these guns. I don't typically do that because my opinion is like, you spend so much money on the firearm, I don't want to spend X amount of dollars just to make it run, you know, decent. Something I think they should have done from the factory anyways. That's just kind of how I approach this, but whatever. You know, having better access to your charging handle, I think, and a better setup for the charging handle overall, a little bit bigger, a little bit longer maybe. But there's also foldable options now. So they actually tuck against the receiver when they're not in use, and then you can fold them out when you need them. Fully ambidextrous, of course, that's something you absolutely want. Making some quality of life improvements with the SCAR, slimming it down, taking some of the weight off. I mean, this gun, this is a bench gun all the way, right, in the 20S. I absolutely love this thing, but it's heavy. All the SCARs are relatively heavy. The 16S, of course, is a little bit more manageable. And even the 17S isn't terrible, but they could definitely use some Ozempic for these girls because they got a little bit of weight to them. Another issue with the SCAR is proprietary mags. Now, in 2025, PMAG is where it's at. You should be able to just buy them for pretty much any rifle and use those. They're reliable, they're robust, they're available. These guns, 50, 60 bucks, proprietary mags. It's pretty much the only thing you can run them, except for the 16S, which will take standard magazines. Still, for your entire lineup, that would be a good thing too. Now, these guns shoot fantastic, but the trigger, you definitely want a nice single stage, flat face trigger. For this kind of money, you would expect that. The other thing they have to do, and this is one of the biggest points of contention, and I know there'll be plenty of people that argue about, oh, you can't afford a SCAR, that's why you hate them. And then you'll have the guys that can't afford a SCAR and say, well, no, actually I have one or two or whatever. I just think there's some things that need to be changed on the platform, right? Me personally, I think there's a lot of guns on the market that you can get for half the cost of a SCAR and still have, I mean, an amazing gun, right? I don't think you have to buy a SCAR to have, you know, like the best rifle on the market. That's just not, that's never been my approach. I really like these guns, but they're just too expensive. Keeping these guns under $3,000, from like $2,500 to $3,000 is still a ton of money, but I think it's going to make it more reasonable for most people. Once you get to 35 and $4,000, it's just a lot of money, right? It's a lot of money all the way around, but at least you're going to be more competitive with your high-end ARs and things like that if they can knock the price back without sacrificing quality too much. Some of you might already be thinking, hey, they already have that, and that's what's going to replace the SCAR. That is the lightweight, intermediate caliber cartridge, IWS, or individual weapon system. This is a brand new design that they've already come out with, and it addresses a lot of the issues I just talked about. And I think this might be a part of their bigger plans to step into some military contracts that another company might end up losing. But this gun, I mean, it almost has everything. Ambidextrous charging handle, right? Sits much closer to the user of the rifle. Ambidextrous controls all the way around. They have a self-regulating gas port. The gas port distance from port to chamber is the same throughout these guns. They have several different barrel lengths, but regardless of barrel length, that gas port is the absolute same. And then they have a gas on and gas off system designed to be run suppressed, cold hammer forged barrel, M-lock all the way around on the handguard, non-reciprocating, two-stage precision trigger, and a brand new caliber too, right? So now this caliber, this is going to be something we might see on the civilian side. Think 277 Fury. This is going to be 264 though, or 6.5 by 43, which is supposed to offer you superior ballistic coefficients compared to 5.56. Now, I would imagine on the civilian market, we're still going to have 5.56, 7.62 by 51, of course, but 5.56 is kind of just a staple. But what they've done with this new cartridge actually sounds pretty impressive. It's a two-piece steel case. It's got like a stainless steel tip, and so what FN is claiming is that these rounds are like 20% lighter per round. Now, they have a 25 round special purpose magazine, so you're going to have 5 rounds less, right, per standard than what you'll find in, a standard 30 round mag. But still, each round is supposed to be lighter. So not only are you going to get better distance, it's supposed to cut through the wind, not be affected by the wind as much. Better ballistic coefficients all the way around compared to 5.56, similar to 277, with very slight increases in what you'll feel on the inside, of course, as far as like muzzle rise and felt recoil. So that's pretty interesting, right? That's a very interesting round, but we know how hard it is for people to switch to a brand new round, especially when you have, you know, a stockpile of 5.56, you've been buying it for years, right? I don't know that it would make much sense for them to introduce a brand new rifle system and, oh, by the way, you have to buy it in this round. That's more for their military contracts. But this rifle pretty much strikes all of those things, all of those deficiencies, if you will, that the SCAR platform has kind of suffered with. I can't imagine a world without a SCAR. I think for them to focus on both of these guns, I don't know how possible that is. Between those two options, though, I would lean towards a brand new SCAR design that implements some of those features they already have with the LICC. That would make the most sense to me. But it definitely, it's SCAR-ish in color, but that's pretty much it. It doesn't look really anything like a SCAR. So them saying legacy model and pointing to SHOT Show 2026 makes me think they will update it, but it will probably have some of those new features that this new rifle already has. Now here's the other unfortunate thing that could happen. They drop the SCAR lineup altogether and they focus on their military contracts. Now this is the least likely, in my opinion, that they just fully drop, you know, the SCAR. They don't introduce a new rifle to replace the SCAR or new SCAR itself, SCAR 2.0 if you will. I don't think they will just leave the civilian market. They were just awarded like a $2 million, I think it's a $2 million contract for that MTL 30, which is a wild 30 millimeter freaking grenade launcher. $6.9 million from the Department of Defense to make new barrels for the 240s and the 249s. They have Belgian contracts that they're working on. And of course, not along with the LICC, they also have a new LMG that they've introduced for trials as well. Military contract money, I would assume, is, you know, gonna be hard to pass up. Now, we have to look at how FN has responded to legacy models in the past, though, to give us better insight of what they would do with the SCAR if they decide to just leave it high and dry. And like with everything, it's kind of a mixed bag of opinions. The FNS, this is one of the guns I started this channel with. I mean, they discontinued that gun, it seemed like really quickly. Since the FN 509 came into the picture, the FNS has just been obsolete. Have people been able to get those guns repaired? I don't know. You guys let me know. If you still own one, have you been able to get it repaired? FS 2000, right? There's been a number of guns. Some people say, yeah, I've been able to get them repaired. Others say they can't. Here's the bottom line. If you're looking at buying a SCAR, if this is something that you've always wanted and you've just kind of held off, the prices are only going to go up. As the scarcity increases, especially from now until January. If in January they announce, hey, there's a SCAR 2.0, you won't see the prices on these like go dramatically up. I say that, I mean, I hope I'm not wrong, even though I've invested into them, right? And they would benefit me and other people that own SCARs. It's already a fantastic gun. You don't want it to be further out of reach, but then again, you know, I'm kind of talking against my own interest, I guess, in a way. I don't want to see that, right? But the price will go up, right? Just make no mistake about it, especially if they discontinue and just leave the SCAR behind totally. Even if they replace it with that LICC, especially if they do that or discontinue altogether, the prices will go up. So if you've ever wanted to get one, I would say now is probably the time. I talked to my local gun shop and they said for the past week or so, they've been getting requests and requests and requests since these rumors have been starting. And already scarcity is becoming kind of a thing to them anyways. Your local area might be a little bit different. The other thing for current SCAR owners though, is maybe getting some of the replacement parts while they still have them. FN said they're going to service these rifles for a limited time. We don't know how long that's going to be. And I'll kind of end with this. I absolutely love these guns. I have the 17 and the 20S, and they are two of my favorite guns. They're kind of showstoppers, right? Everybody wants to take shots with the SCAR. It's been an iconic gun, man, and it's one that I am extremely blessed to own and have owned for a while now. Personally, I mean, most of what FN puts out, I'm really a huge fan of. I love what they do. I don't see them going the way of HK and just essentially abandoning the civilian market. But then again, I could be totally wrong. I don't know. I don't have any insider information. All I can tell you is what I think. My gut tells me there will be a SCAR 2.0, or at the very least, you'll have that new rifle step into its place with some changes, of course. But that's just my opinion. I'd love to hear yours. Let me know what you think down below. Is the SCAR worth it, or has it been overhyped since the beginning? Let me know your opinion down below. If you like what I do, consider subscribing. See you in the next one. And as always, hold them down.